The goal of this video is to be able to find and name the sides of a triangle. So let's go and we'll look at an angle to start off with. I'm going to have this angle here, which is just two sides meeting at a point, and I'm going to call this angle theta. So theta is just a Greek letter that we use all the time. We usually use it to represent angles. Sometimes we also use alpha and beta. Those are also some Greek letters. Now, these two arms on the angle, they would be considered adjacent. And the reason they're adjacent is because that word means next to. So these two sides are both adjacent to the angle. Now, this third side here, if I connect it up, is not next to the angle at all. It is on the opposite side of the triangle. So in a triangle, there will be two sides adjacent to the angle and one side that is opposite to it. All right, here we have a right angled triangle. Now, let's find the side that is opposite to the right angle. So the right angle is in the corner here. These two sides would be adjacent. So if we want the opposite side, it's going to be the one on the other side. The side opposite the right angle has a special name. It is called the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is always the side opposite the right angle. And what's special about the hypotenuse is that it's the longest side of the triangle. Now, the other two sides in the triangle, we would like to call them opposite and adjacent. Now, before we could do that, we need to specify an angle inside the triangle. So I'm going to say that I'm going to be looking from the perspective of this angle in the bottom right corner here, from the perspective of theta. Now, from the perspective of theta, this side all the way over here is going to be the opposite side. So again, the hypotenuse is opposite the right angle, but once we specify one of the other two angles, we can now say that this side over here is opposite that side. So I'm going to call this side the opposite, or just op for short. And this side here is next to the angle theta, and it is going to be called the adjacent side. Now, technically, the hypotenuse could also be considered adjacent to the angle. However, because this is a right angled triangle, we want to have three different names for all three sides. We call this one the hypotenuse because it is the hypotenuse in the triangle. We don't call the adjacent side. So what we end up with is the three names: opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the most important. It's opposite the right angle, and then opposite and adjacent are just depending on the angle that you're looking from. So if I were to take this same triangle, and instead of looking from the angle in the bottom right corner, I look in the angle from the top left corner. Now the opposite side is actually the one down here, and the adjacent side is the one over there. So depending on which angle you're looking from, which perspective you're looking from, changes which side is the opposite and the adjacent, but the hypotenuse never changes.